Welcome in. It is Thursday, folks, and it's another episode of Line to Gain. You're listening to the Buffalo Rumblings Network. She is Sarah Larson from sunny Miami. I'm the big O, Jerry Ostrowski, down here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What is up, folks? Before we get going, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. We got a lot to talk about today. One thing we are going to not do is what, Sarah?
Talk about the draft.
Talk about
Not
the draft
really.
obsessively.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch base a little bit about it, but obviously we don't, we're one of the shows at the end of the week, and we know that it's been talked about kind of ad nauseum at this point in time, and
Yes.
there's no take that we can have at this point in time without anything being, adjusted on the rosters currently that it makes any sense to change anything that we've been talking about. But I mean, we'll get into it obviously the week before the draft, maybe even next week as well. We'll dive back in a little bit, but kind of wanted to stay away at this point in time.
One of the things about the draft that's amazing is how many ways a million people can draft the same names in a different order. I mean, we're there. It's funny to me that people just they regurgitate the same names. It seems like over and over again. I've seen some doozies. I've seen some good
Yeah.
ones. I think that there's I'm excited for it. I'm ready to see where we go, what avenue we go to. I guess now that Jim Kelly and our man John Fina of the Buffalo Rumbling Network, and now that they've endorsed the fact that it is okay to draft Bijan Robertson, we should just go ahead and draft him, and everything's okay, right?
Hey, I'm not going to say everything's okay, but I still do not mind drafting Bijan at all. Because everybody is on board with, with drafting a linebacker. So like it started to become on board, I should say, because before it was just offense, offense, offense. And now people are starting to say, well, linebacker, so maybe Jack Campbell. So I've started to watch a little bit more, of his tape and stuff. I'm still not positive I want him at 27. I'll be honest, but that's just because I feel like there's not any real middle linebackers in this
Right.
draft that are worth taking in the first and second round. I don't know if any of them are plug and play. So I feel like it's almost a waste of a first round pick if he's not going to see the field. Um,
Right.
so, but I've started watching a little bit more. I've gotten a little bit more, on board with him as a pick. I would just prefer it being in the second round. Another person, someone kept on fighting with me about was Josh Downs. So I've watched a little bit more about him. I know who he is because he's an ACC wide receiver, but I've watched a little bit more on him. And got me a little bit more on board. Today there was a lot of people talking about Ivan Pace, another
Right.
linebacker. Dude is so small. I see him kind of as like a big safety. So
Well,
the fact,
that's what linebackers are becoming.
yeah, but to be, I don't know, to be in our defense and the way we run the defense, I don't see him replacing the hole left by Edmonds.
Right.
So it makes me a little nervous there. But we'll see where we end up drafting at this point in time. Ivan Pace would be down the road, probably fourth or fifth round, I would think. But he is a decent prospect just later. And kind of see what we could do with him, But we'll see, what ended up happening in a couple weeks. I'm excited. I'm flying in on Thursday, and then I leave on Saturday. So I'm definitely excited. On Friday, I will be actually in the draft section, so
Right.
I'll be up and close. So second and third round, you guys will get a lot of stuff on Twitter. So long as there's
Well, I'll tell
internet.
you
So
what. I'm 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 not going to be able to make it, which is fine. But what I will tell you is this: I'll send you who we're picking 5 minutes before it happens because I'll be the one getting all the tips,
all
and
right.
y'all will be standing there. So I'll probably know who we're picking before you do, and you'll be in Kansas City. But anyway, folks, we like when you hit the comment section. Do so. If you're in the comment section, you'll see who I want to draft. My first round pick is a guy by the name of Trade. I want to trade. Nobody inspires me at 27 the
Oh.
way I must have him. And of course, unless we find out that somehow, some way, Quentin Johnson or somebody like that just stumbles to 27. But I
Some
don't
people are
think
saying it
that.
might happen.
I
I
hope
have
it
a couple
does.
of people. Yeah, I have a couple of people who, keep on, mocking Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, are two wide receiver prospects that a lot of people think are going to go earlier. But they're still popping up in those at number 27. Someone posted earlier today that we a draft, a mock draft, and it was really almost annoying because that we all feel like we need some type of battle at tackle, right tackle right now, and they had us picking, I think, Henley, who's also a linebacker out of Washington State. So they had us picking Henley at 27. Most people have him as the fifth or sixth linebacker off the board.
Right.
And then the next pick was Darnell Wright. So it's like, wait a second, where who in the heck came up with this mock draft? So, and I'm a Henley fan, don't get me wrong, but I have him more like third round, right, maybe early third, late second, possibly, just because it's not that deep at linebacker this year. So Twitter's been cracking me up a little bit with some of these ideas that they've been having.
Hey, I
But
like what Roy
today,
had to say in the comments. I like what Roy had to say. He wants to get Siaki from Baylor. We need a big sloppy one technique. I'm all about that. I mean, I think to honor Tony Saragusa, who's passed on, we need to get somebody like the Goose. I think that's what we need. That would be a good pick. Just
yeah,
not in
that
the
would be
first round.
yeah, no, that would be later on, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
So what are we going to say? I'm sorry to interrupt you
No, no,
and be
no. I was
rude.
just gonna say. So today we hosted Darnell Wright on a top 30 visit. Some of the other players that we've held visits for wide receiver is what intrigues me. So we've had Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Josh Down, Tank Dell, and Jaden Reed. Um, they like I mean, like, not all of them are small, but most of them are under 6 foot and under 200 pounds. They really do like the smaller bodied wide receivers, and
Why do you
it's
think that is?
well, they want speed,
What
obviously,
else do
but
they want?
I
I've
you're
been
gonna have
trying to
to
sell you on this,
elaborate.
Sarah. I've been trying to sell you on this, and you don't. They need slot
No,
receivers.
okay. I am not convinced, and I will go to my grave. I am
Well,
not
you
convinced that
you don't
Gabe.
you're not convinced. You watch Kansas City beat our heads in with slot receivers in the playoffs all the time, and then tell me we don't need something like that.
Jerry, I'm not saying, I never said we don't need a slot receiver. Never said that. I said we need to draft. Obviously, I would love to draft JSN if that was possibility. It's probably not. We would have to draft. We'd have to go up, trade up way too far in order to get him. Zay Flowers can do both. He's an outside and inside guy. He can definitely play both slot and a boundary. I don't mind Zay anymore. All I'm saying, Tank Dell is very, 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 very tiny. I think he's not even like 180 pounds. Like he's like really, it scares me how tiny he is.
Right.
But with all that being said, I've never said we don't need a slot receiver. I've actually said over and over again, I think we need two. I think we need a slot receiver. And then I think we need someone to go in there to compete with Gabe, at the very least, compete with Gabe, but at the very most, take over as wide receiver two. I think that we still need a boundary guy. I'm not convinced that Gabe is consistent enough to be that person every week. That is all. You keep on putting it in my mouth that I'm saying that we don't need a slot receiver.
But I'm not
Um,
saying you did, but you did. I mean, I'm just, I don't know. Here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. Everybody likes to trash Gabe Davis. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Um, you know, we constantly want to. Here's the thing: what happens if this year we go into the season and I see? I don't believe in the. Here's the thing: I don't believe in it. I'd be curious to get John's opinion on this. I don't really believe in this whole 1, 2, 3, 4 wideout thing. I mean, I understand we have wideouts that are better maybe than others or whatever, but I don't believe in all this. There's a 1 receiver and a 2 receiver and a 3 receiver. They should all work together. They should all be able to play off one another. And are we not, we keep talking about getting receiver talent. We have some receiver talent, but are we talking about we're not putting them in a position to be successful? Or is it more that, or is it more the lack of talent? Because I give you Philadelphia, who the year before was not very good, and then all of a sudden they become this prolific passing team, and they've got talent. They picked Brown up in the draft on the
mhm.
trade beforehand, but what I'm saying is they've got a lot of people, but they work together. Jay Spence, we need a wide receiver number 2. I think we need 4 wide receivers. I want all my wide receivers to be number 1 receivers. They all work together. You never hear anybody at the offensive line go, "We got a 1, a 2, a 3." He's a 4th lineman. We need a new 4th lineman, not a new. I don't know. I just think they all work together. But that's just me. Hey, what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know, Jerry? I'm joking.
What do I know?
I'm
It's
just
been.
messing with you.
I had like a crazy day. Like my day was like really kind of stressful and not very good. And then I had this
Aw.
thing happen where it was really good, and now I'm kind of giddy about it. So I'm in a little bit of a chippy mood right now. So if Spence
All
wants to
right.
hook up, I'm all about hooking up.
There you go. Oh, and Joe's chiming in now
Yeah,
too.
they know they're just trying to pick a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
And I watched
So,
Tombstone last night too, you two goons. So I'm not intimidated by either of these.
so who was it? I'm gonna scroll back up through the comments. uh, Daryl put they're gonna draft some dude who hasn't been to a top 30 visit. I feel like they do that a lot too. So they end up put pulling the sheet over our heads, and we're all like, okay, so here's the 30 people
Right.
that's on their draft board, and then they end up going with somebody who they never even met with as a private top 30 visit. So we have to remember that they still interview all them. They have Senior Bowl, they have the combine. Go ahead, Jerry.
No, go ahead. I have to
No,
turn the
go ahead.
comments off because
Oh,
Joe.
I'm not looking
I
at the
have to turn the comments off because Joe has obviously gotten his card since he's been away, and now he's come back. If you live in Oklahoma, you understand what getting your card means. It means that you're able to go to a certain establishment and buy certain products to enjoy at your home in a medical manner. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
What did Joe say though? I didn't even
The numbers of the receivers dictate the coverage that you get.
Well, in a certain I get what he's saying. Basically, if they view you as the second best wide receiver on the field, you're going to go against the second best, corner on the field. But there are times where
Is
the
this like
defense is
little
going,
kid basketball
no,
when you're going to
I was
guard him?
finishing.
So you get the red wristband and he gets the red wristband, and that is who you cover because you both have the
Of
red
course not.
wristband.
Of course not. As I was saying, there are defenses that they're going to change the scheme up during the game, and as they turn it around, just like we're going to put possibility of putting Diggs in the slot to change things around. They're not going to move cornerback 1 to take to the slot if he's not used to playing the slot in that
What
in that
about the
instance.
teams that play receiver? What about the teams that play corners on one side of the field? They only play half the field. And say Diggs lines up on the right, but then he goes to the left, and that guy's supposedly your best corner. Is he going to go over with him, or is he going to play his half the field? Because that's the way the defense plays.
Of course, that's my point. That's exactly what I was just saying. It's they're not gonna always move with the wide
Right. I'm
receiver.
sorry. I didn't understand. I'm in a daze right now. I'm in a daze. I'm in a daze
uh,
by this. Go ahead.
John
Continue.
John said I want to see Jerry stoned. So I think next week we need to have some of that, Jerry. Let's see.
No, Jerry doesn't need any of that. Jerry, I'm powered on Fresca right now. Fresca, that's our new sponsor of the show, Fresca.
Yeah.
But you got to put Tito's in it.
Yeah. There you go. So today we re-signed officially Jordan Phillips, so
Right.
that's in the books. I've been one of the people that with doing my mock drafts and stuff, I've been picking a lot of like an rusher or defensive end. Just because obviously we haven't re-signed Shaq Lawson at this point in time yet. And we don't know when Von's going to come back. So I've been kind of doing a lot of the draft where we're picking up a either an edge guy or a defensive end. But then today, Matt Perino had tweeted out some of the free agents that are still available, and I honestly think that we're going to wait until after the draft. But after the draft, we're going to pick up one of these guys, and they're going to take a low deal for 1 year because they're still available and they want to be on a winning team. I'm going to believe in that. And Melvin Ingram, Frank Clark, Jadavian Clowney, Bud Dupree, Shaq, of course, Justin Houston. Just the list is like a whole bunch. I granted they're all older. They're all getting older now, and that's why you only do the 1 year deal. But can't imagine getting somebody in the draft that's going to impact for this year the way one of those guys could. So I honestly think we're going to need two. I think that we're going to need someone to fill in for Vaughn, and then someone to kind of go between whether it's Boogie and Rousseau. We're going to need more, in my opinion, depth there.
Well, I
So
think, and I agree with you. I think it helps us if we get somebody that can stand up and we can put Rousseau back with his hand on the ground. I think that makes that defensive line better. With him standing up and being away from it, that weakens that defensive line. And again, I've been preaching it for the last so many weeks. We've got to get better up the middle on both sides of the ball. It's got to happen. I don't care who's playing 1, 2, 8 receiver. I don't care who's doing what. We have got to get better on both lines of scrimmage.
yeah. So I'm kind of on board with getting somebody in free agency versus getting somebody in the draft. Now I'm kind of switching that attention. Um, so there was a couple of other questions. So today on Twitter there was a debate. Well, it was more of a comment, and then it became a debate of who is the best wide receiver ever in Bill's history. It was, a discussion between Andre Reed and obviously Stephon Diggs now. But then some people brought up, well, what about Molds? What about, Peerless Price? What about Stevie Johnson? So the list started going, on and on. Why are you putting your hands up?
Is Diggs in the Hall of Fame?
No, obviously, when you're comparing somebody who is
There's no
currently
there's no argument.
when you're comparing someone who is currently in the NFL and currently playing versus someone who has been retired, I mean, there's obviously a difference in conversation there. You can't go just to the Hall of Fame. Will Diggs be in the Hall of Fame? Probably.
How do you say that?
I mean, have you seen his numbers?
Yeah, I have.
I,
He's
I
playing well. I mean, but there's longevity. There's things like that. I don't think he's a lock as a Hall of Famer right now. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's the second best receiver in franchise history. Eric Molds is the second best receiver in franchise history.
So see, I love Reed, don't get me wrong, but I actually was always a Molds fan. Like that was my guy. Like I still have a jersey that's forever years old. And I have a Peerless Price jersey too. Those were my two guys. And I, for years. Then when Stevie came on, I was like, I love Stevie, but I never said he would have been in the conversation as one of the best in Bill's history. No offense to Stevie. Love him, but when you're comparing it to those guys that, really put their stamp, on the team. But I'm gonna say that if Diggs keeps on having a couple more seasons the way he has been, he will end his career as the best Bills wide receiver ever. I won't say it now, but I do think he will end his career that way.
Spence said two things he said two things on the comments. And like I said earlier, hit the comment section. Tell us what you're thinking. Also, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. We're here every Thursday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. But Spence says, one thing I agree with, TU is better, or TO, Terrell Owens is better than all of them, which you
He
could
wasn't on the Bills.
I
He
would
wasn't on the
argue
Bills long
that.
enough.
I would argue that. And then
He wasn't on the
this
Bills
come
long enough. That's my only
then he
argument
says
there.
in the other breath that Diggs is absolutely a lock for the Hall of Fame. This coming from a dude that thought that our all pro safety was going to get $12 million a year, but he didn't. But I'm just saying, I mean, there's a track record sometimes, but that's just me.
You are frisky tonight. Jeez.
I'm trying to pick a fight. They came
I
at me
could
early.
see. I
They
can
came at
see.
me. Sarah, it's their fault. They called each other up and said, hey, let's mess with Jerry O tonight. We're going to
Yep.
come straight at him. And they did.
So Papa Ron put Molds is in the hall, but I'd say he was the best this team has ever had. He also didn't have the quarterback play. So I love Molds. Don't get me I love Molds. Same thing with Peerless Price. Those were like my two guys, like I said. But again, Diggs is like I think the guy now, and we got to give him another 2 years, to have the amount of time in a Bills uniform. But I think that he will definitely end his career as the best wide receiver the Bills have ever had.
Okay. I'm gonna continue to go with Andre Reed because unlike everybody else that can only play slot or only play outside or play only one or two, Andre played outside receiver, he played inside receiver.
Don't say that
He was
about
a,
Diggs, because
he
Diggs
was an
can play everything.
innovator. He was an innovator. Well, why doesn't he? He was an innovator in the passing game as far as bringing in hot routes with Jim Kelly. They changed the game, and that's great. I'm glad he got 1,000 yard seasons in a row. If Dre played nowadays, he'd probably do the same thing. So I'm just saying it.
Yeah. Well, Diggs has
It's
played
hard for me
slot
to
a couple
argue
of
with that.
times. He did play slot a couple times this season. He's got to be schemed into the play that way. That's on Dorsey, but he did play in the slot sometimes, and I actually think he would excel like ridiculously in that role if we moved him.
Come on.
If we
Keep
moved
going
him to
with
the
that.
slot.
Keep going
I've
with
been
that.
saying that though, Jerry. I've
I
been saying
agree
that.
with you.
Okay.
That's where I want him. I want him to play the slot. I don't think he's an outside. I do think he's an outside receiver. He plays well there. I think he's a killer, absolute killer
I think
in
with
there.
his
I would
route
move him
running,
all over
it
the
would be
place.
ridiculous.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Finally, Jerry agrees with
One
something.
million%. Carl, I agree with you. He was our best slot receiver when he played there. I agree
Yep.
with you. And by the way, Spence, if I put words in your mouth, I apologize. I don't want you mad at me. Joe, I'm still mad at you. You can't make
Yeah.
up with me. But
All
no,
right. So
I agree with that. I really do. And I think the best receivers go in and out. I think if the offense coordinator was smart, he would hide him and move him around. But that's just me.
yeah. So someone put something fun on Twitter today. They said how many passing yards will Josh have this season. So everyone can comment what their idea is. But what do you think, Jerry? I mean, as of
Well, what did he
right
have
now,
last year? What did he have last year?
about 45. I think
Well, we
44.
know he's going to already have 1,000 from Diggs. That's a lock.
I mean,
And then
more like 1,500 is what he's been kind of average. Well, 13 to 1,500 is what he's been averaging.
I don't know. I think that.
And this is without us going out and getting another wide receiver at this point in time. So this is with the current roster that we have. What do you think?
I don't know because I'm nerved up about him staying healthy with what the situation at hand. I want to see how this whole thing works. I want to see Dorsey with a second season under his belt. Can he protect Josh Allen better? Can he keep hits off of him? Is our offensive line going to stay healthy? Are we going to
Well,
get a
yes.
running back
I
in
mean,
the draft? You know,
I think we've already upgraded our offensive line, even if it's just a little bit. I think we've already upgraded it. I think we'll upgrade it more. So when I posted, I put 4750, and that's passing. Obviously, I'm hoping his rushing yards go down a little bit. I want him to run when he needs to, a couple of design plays. but I don't want him to be our RB2 anymore.
No, I think he throws for four. I don't know how much, somewhere in the fours. I mean, over four is, you might as well just, what is, if you say 4,700 and somebody else says 4,600,
I
to
said
me
4750,
it's
yeah. I mean, but last
over
year,
4,000 yards is a great season. I mean,
yeah. Well,
seriously.
he had over 4,000 last year, and everyone's saying he had a bad season. So
Well, he did, because he threw the ball to the other team more than he threw it to his own team, but that's besides the point.
gotcha. All right, I'm gonna go touch that right now. You-
I mean,
no,
but then
I
again,
get
it's
it.
again, you can't critique him. He's uncritiquable.
Well, no, and we got in an argument about that, what, 2 weeks ago. I've never said he's not, not critiquable. He's definitely critiquable. I'm just saying that some people look at him and say his turnovers. Yes, I think his turnovers were definitely an issue. I really enjoyed seeing, there was a tweet out the other day that showed how many of them were, you know pretty much his fault or getting hit in the pocket, or along with his fumbles and stuff like that. So um it was interesting to see the difference. I'm not giving him excuses. I know that's the next thing that's going to come out of your mouth.
No, it's
You
not.
know
It's not.
well, his injury and everything else. Yes, he threw more interceptions. My thing is the interceptions in the red zone is what killed me. He's trying to do too much with on his own.
Joe Miller. Honestly, to be honest with you, all BSing aside and being completely transparent, we do need to have another 1 to 2 weapons at receiver. We don't have enough options outside of Diggs. We have to get more dynamic there. We have to get speed. We have to be able to play inside, outside, and those types of things. I agree with you. The other thing is, if we're not going to throw to our tight end more, why do we pay him the money we paid him? Move him and get somebody else in here, or just come out and make an effort, a concerted effort to sell out and throw to the tight end. I know we got on the tight end a lot because of lack of production. To be honest with you, I don't think it was his fault because he wasn't targeted as much.
I
Now, he
think it
did drop some balls, but I also think a lot of that is, if you want a guy to be consistent catching it, you got to throw it to him.
Yeah, I think in the beginning of the year it was more, him being in his head with his brother passing, and I don't think he was quite ready to put football first. Then he started with the drops, and I think that we kind of took him out of playing for quite a while. He was on the field, but we weren't targeting him the way we normally we're targeting him. I noticed at the end of the year, though, we did start to distribute the ball to him a little bit more. So
Right.
I'm hoping that he's back and he's good, and we'll be able to start utilizing him again. I'm still on board with getting another tight end this year. Obviously, if one falls in the first round, I am saying I am
Right.
not opposed to picking up somebody in the first round. Even though some people are like, "Are you kidding me?" I don't want to reach for one in the first round. This is a very deep draft for tight ends, so we will be able to pick somebody up in mid rounds that's still going to have an impact. Um, and we still have Morris, and I think Morris is a very good tight end. So it'll be interesting to see that that dynamic if if we utilize them, like we've been
I
saying.
guess the question is, Sarah, to you and this is the part that kind of goes back to the football person in me. Everybody throws all this stuff out there. We need a running back. We need a receiver. We need a whatever. Honestly, what is the thing that puts this football team over the top and takes them to the next level? What is the one thing they need to do as a football team to get to the next level? I've been preaching it for a while. I think you know what it is, but what is your one thing? Because we have a wish list, but we're not going to get that
Right.
entire wish list. We only have so much money.
I honestly
What is that
think,
one thing?
are you referring to like the team as a whole, or the roster?
I'm just going to do this. Let's do this. Let's split it down the middle and say offense and defense. Offensively,
Okay.
what's the one thing they need to do to be that championship offense? Defensively, what's the one thing you think they need to do to be a championship defense? Because obviously
Okay.
there's something missing.
I'm a little split on offense. I think it has to do with obviously our offensive line. I think is we still need to get a little bit. better. We need more competition on that line right now. But I also think that even if we didn't, even if the line was the way it was going in day one, I think it lies in Dorsey's hands at this point in time. I think that, you know, if he can utilize his players a little bit better in year two, then we're going to be a better team all around to begin with. And then on the defensive side, I I don't think that we like, obviously free agency. I'd rather pick up a free agent linebacker at this point in time. I think our needs are more future needs. Unless we get rid of Oliver, then we obviously need a defensive tackle sooner rather than later. We're going to need an edge rusher eventually. We're going to need a safety eventually. But none of them are like we need them right now. So,
Right.
um, for me, I would rather get, like I said, the edge rusher out of free agency, someone that's going to come in that has, that's a veteran. But then middle linebacker, there's not a lot that are out there in free agency right now. So we're going to have to draft a linebacker. It just depends on, where we feel comfortable doing that, because this
Right.
is not the year to, it's really not the year for linebackers. So, but that's what I personally think. It's, personnel wise, that's what it is. But then I think there's a major contribution of coaching on both sides of the ball that is going to play into that.
And I think that's a big thing, and I want to build off of what you just said about coaching. I think that the biggest thing we need to do offensively is we have to be more consistent up front. We have to be able to do some things up front we did not do last year. One of those is more of a we need to be able to put a hat on a hat and move people and create some running lanes. We need to protect our quarterback. I'm not so sure that we don't have the talent to do that. I'm not so sure that we don't have the scheme that's appropriate for what we have. And I think that that's a big deal. Coaches getting offensive linemen into schemes and positions where they can be successful with what they have. And I think if you talk to others, they'll agree. You know, they got two guards in free agency. Are these guys going to push the guards we have? Are they going to create opportunities to play? Can the one guy go outside and play tackle if he has to? They say he can. We'll see. I think that's a big deal. That thing there, coaching these guys appropriately and getting them in appropriate schemes, and then obviously staying healthy. The way you help linebacker on defense is to get big, snarly, nasty dudes inside that keep guards and centers away from them. Okay, if you think that maybe we have some guys up front or at linebacker on the team, okay, if you think we have some of those guys that can compete. Maybe you're not happy with a Jack Campbell like everybody else is in love with because he's like the of one of 2.5 linebackers that are available that are first round guys. They say, but if you don't necessarily have or in a position to pick one or get one for agency, and you got one on the roster, get your front guys better. Your one technique, your two technique, your three technique. Right? Grab two guards, grab a center, keep people off of them. Now they're making plays because they're running free, right? Again, what is that? That's coaching, that's scheme, that's all that. So I think that's a big thing. And I've been preaching it for a while. You know what I want? I want to get better up the middle on both sides of the ball. But I think you hit it on the head. At some point, the coaching staff has to look at what they have and make their scheme work with their talent. The guys that continually try to hammer their scheme into any player, they don't last long. And, it'd be nice to see us maybe do some things, some stretch zone or some true stretch, pin and pull concepts on the offensive line side. Maybe get some big nasty dudes, play a little two gap inside. You don't have to hop gaps all the time. We like to hop gaps. Play a little two gap, hold guys up and see what happens. So I think you're on to something there.
All right. So, couple weeks ago we had some Twitter questions and Facebook questions, and we've been we've been inundated with so many, we haven't been able to actually finish them all. So I wanted to finally touch base. So Joe from Twitter said, what is Jerry's favorite memory as a Buffalo Bill?
That's probably there's a couple of them. One would be the very first game I played in. I was called up with 3 games left in the season, and was called up to the roster. Marv called me in earlier in the week and said, "Hey, we're going to activate you, pull you off the practice squad." We and you can find this game on YouTube. It's pretty crazy. I watched it the other day in condensed version. It's pretty cool. But it was a Sunday night ESPN game, and Paul McGuire was doing the color commentating. I can't remember the name of the guy that was doing the play-by-play, but I hear his voice. And it was the crazy game where um, Jim threw a ball that bounced off of somebody. Andre caught it, or I think it was Andre. Maybe it was I think it was Andre caught it, ran it for a touchdown. It was like a really wild game. So our left guard got hurt. No, our right guard got hurt earlier in the game, and a guy named Mike Devlin went in to play right guard. So I was over in the sidelines wearing my ball cap. I'm like, "Hey man, this is great. I'm chilling. I'm in Miami. I don't think I'm going to play." And at that point, the right guard or the left guard gave up another sack. It was like his second sack he gave up in the game. And after that series, Tom Bresnahan, our offensive line coach, turned around. He looked at me, goes, "You're in next series." And I literally did one of those, like seriously, like I'm looking behind me, like, "Yeah, man, you're in next series." And they're like, "No, you're in next series." I'm like, "Oh my God." And I went in and I'm like, I can still remember it. Kent Hull was telling me to calm down. And he goes, "I'll tell you all the calls. You'll be fine. You'll know where to go." And I end up playing the next series and played the rest of the game. And after the game, Jim gives me and Mike Devlin a game ball. And it was either the next morning or Tuesday morning, I'm on it was 90, what is it, 97 Rock? Was it 97 Rock? What was the edge up there? 103.3 the edge?
I don't remember.
It was whatever the radio station that Ted Shred was on. It was Shred and Reagan in the morning, whatever channel that is. I'm always Shred and Reagan on the radio. I ended up getting a show with him every season. But no, it's crazy, man. Like I went from like practicing and being a practice squad guy to playing, and I never left the field after that. I played every game from that point on, and it was just nuts. So that was probably my that memory, and when I scored a touchdown against San Diego, that was cool too.
So did you especially for your first game, where you actually were gonna go into play? Did you ever get like that? Not only nervousness, but like Josh says, he still like throws up before every game.
Yeah, I get nervous when my kid plays. Like
Yeah.
I was nervous. The thing was I was on the sideline, and it was kind of one of those sudden things that I couldn't believe it, and I went in. But no, yes, for me anyway, if I'm not nervous, then something's wrong. So the bigger the game, the bigger the situation, the more nerves show up. But yes, I was very nervous.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
nervous. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the next question was for me. It was Casey from Facebook, from my Bills Buffalo Stampede Facebook group. She said, "Sarah, what made you decide to start a consecutive game streak and keep it going?" Um, Realistically, it was more. I have a group of friends that traveled, so I would start to travel with them to a couple of games, and 2019, I went to quite a few games away for the first time. I was that girl who was like, I am not going to an away game. I can't stand other fans. I'm not doing it. I had my own little ritual where every game night I was doing something very specific on my sofa with the same food, same drink, same, coaster every like I was really superstitious with it all. But like I said, a couple of guys that I would travel with, they got me to go to a couple of these away games, and knowing other people was fun. So like, going to the
Right.
tailgates and having other people around, they started introducing me to people. Um so I went to quite a few games in 2019, and then the tail end of the season I pretty much started doing, back to back to back type thing. Then we went to the Houston playoff game. And then 2020, obviously, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep this going. And then COVID year happened. So, you know, sitting at home and not being able to go to any games really got to me. So I was just like, okay, next year I have nothing holding me back. So I'm gonna go to to as many games as I can get to. And
Right.
2021, 2020 season, we ended up going to the Kansas City game. It was the only COVID game that we were able to actually attend. But then, 2021, uh, I started, and it was. I didn't realize that I have a couple of friends. Obviously, I've met Pinto Ron. He Kenny is almost going to be at 500. He'll be at 500 by the
Right.
end of the season, which is absolutely ridiculous to even consider it. But he started to motivate me a lot to do it, and he's like, Sarah, when you get to 50, you just don't turn back. You don't turn back. So he knows that I'm going to get to 50 this year, and he's just like, I'm telling you, you might want to miss week 1 or week 2. He's
But
like, you're never going to stop.
I
So
can see why you continually do it, because it's just like COVID brought on this new age of communication, the way people do things, and a lot of podcasting and vidcasting and stuff. It was there before, but let's face facts, COVID kind of took it to another level, and it's been so cool. Like, I can see why you do it, because you get to see, like, just knowing Jay Spence and Joe and everybody, yourself. Kimmy is hilarious. John, of course, we've known each other for a long, long time. Al, there's just a whole bunch of people. Alyssa. There's a whole group of people, and it's just, and you want to be around them, man. I mean, it's cool to be able to go to games and hang out with those types of people, hang
yeah.
out with your friends, and do it. So I hope you get to continue that streak. I hope that you have the means to do it. You stay healthy, and I hope you get to go to London this year. I really do.
Oh, that's
That would be awesome.
that is 100%. I'm actually going to turn it into a London/Paris trip. So
Oh,
that is 100% happening. Definitely doing that. My thing is, I don't know if I'm going to do the whole season. Right yet, because I
right,
don't know how much Paris is going to cost, or Paris and London is going to cost me.
right,
But I will, definitely be to Philadelphia, Washington, and definitely going back out to LA. Pretty much the stadiums that I haven't been to, I will definitely be going to. I'm trying to do the round robin of all the stadiums at this point in time. So, we'll definitely keep the streak going for as long as I can. But it gets by the end of the year, it gets a little redundant and tiring. The travel itself. I love the tailgates. I love seeing everybody. I love walking into a tailgate and having people like run to me and pick me up and Sarah, it's a great feeling, especially when you
right,
see these people, every week and they're still excited to see you. So it's, always been, it's always, I shouldn't say always. It was a very lonely experience for many years. I would drag my son, and, we wouldn't really tailgate and whatnot. And I'd walk around just trying to get to know a few people that, I've met on like Facebook or whatnot. Um, but the last 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, I really started to meet more and more people. And now I have friends that are, OG Bills Mafia, that, we call them, that, they've been fans for 40 plus years, and travel all over the place. And then I got some of the newer people that, I've met, and, I've actually changed. I was going for many years. I was going over to Hammer's Lot. Now I go over to Mafia House, and it's just become, a fun part of the game. But I will admit, I love the atmosphere in the game, but I'd rather watch the game on television. I feel like you see more. I'm like the
yeah,
person texting everybody, and I probably tick a few people off, because during the game I'm like, what? Who was that? They're not showing the replay. Who just got hurt? Or who just made that tackle? Or like, it gets me a little frustrated being there. And you can't necessarily watch every play, but I just moved my season tickets, so it's either going to be something that I love or I hate. I love sitting front row in most stadiums, but the way the Bills Stadium is set up, front row is very low to the ground. So I just moved to the front row, on the 35-yard line behind the Bills bench. I was in the same section, but I was up, on the 30-yard or 30 rows up. So I'll be down front row, so it'll be a fun season. I'll definitely get caught on television, I'm sure, quite a few times. But I don't know what my vantage point's going to be. So all of my friends better be willing to answer my text messages this year.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I'm definitely going to travel to some games this year that are away. Um, I keep on telling people if I go to the first 10 games of the season, I will probably finish out the season. That's kind of what kept me going last year. I went to the first few and then I had to go to, the last few. So like there was like three in between that I was like, why am I going to cut my streak because of these? So, and trust me, someone asked me the other day, what was the worst experience I've had so far with all the travel? And I would have to say it was the game that was moved to Detroit this year. It
Yeah.
was I flew, and I have to thank a couple people. I think Dan Freddy was one of the people who was picking on me on one of our podcasts, saying, "Sarah, you need to fly in now. You need to fly in now." I ended up changing my flight and flying in the next day. And I flew in, I landed, and an hour and a half later, they moved the location of the game. So then I was stuck in Buffalo for 2 days trying to fly out to get over to Detroit. Uh, and finally was able. I was the only flight that left that day out of Buffalo to Detroit. So I definitely was lucky.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh-oh.
We have a super
Go hit
chat.
the count. Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
The injuries last year were catastrophic. This is from Carl Toman. I think I'd say how you pronounce it. Toman. The injuries last year were catastrophic. Josh was hurt in the pocket. Healthy teams win championships. If the Bills stay healthy, they will win it all. Yes, I agree with you, Carl, on a lot of that. I think that's a huge part of it. I think that they were banged up, but I do think they still need a few pieces. But you are correct. I think that they did get banged up, especially up front. The lines got beat
Yeah.
up, and they needed to stay a little bit more healthy. And we're still not going to. Nobody's taken into account, and I'll say it. And you talked about it earlier. Having to go to Detroit, then the DeMar situation, fighting injuries. There's just a lot. It was just a lot. So hopefully they stay healthy. No crazy things happening this season, and they're able to just go out and perform.
I'm for everybody listening on the podcast section. Uh, some of these comments are getting a little out of
Yes.
hand tonight, so we definitely have some disagreements going on in the chat room. That's why we're kind of laughing a little bit here. But pretty much, anything else you wanna touch on this week or
Thank you, Mr. Toman. I appreciate you helping me pronounce your name. Thank you so much. And Carl, thank you for doing
Tillman?
that for us. Thank you for joining us, Toman. Thank you. I appreciate it. No, I mean I think that all kidding aside, I was having a little bit of fun earlier. Um, those two goons do give me a headache every now and then, but no, seriously,
No,
I
it's
was
kept
just
going with other people now too. So you
I know.
you rubbed off on everybody.
Exactly. I feel like it was like Braveheart. Where are you going to pick a fight? No, it was no, not really. I think it's I'm really excited for the draft because I think it's going to answer a lot of questions for what we should expect moving into training camp for the Bills. I think that this draft is really going to set the tone because I mean there's so many for one time, this is the one time. This is how you kind of know the Bills are good, I think. There's there's no real true blue consensus number one thing that anybody says they should get, right? If you ask five different Bills fans, they'll give you five different answers. Well, somebody's going to tell you we need a receiver. Somebody's going to say we need an offensive tackle. We need DBs and safeties. I mean, there's a linebacker. So I don't think that I don't think this team by any means is in distress. I think that and this takes a little bit of luck and it takes a little bit of that because of evaluation, but are the picks they're making the right ones? Do they pan out? And if they are, because really, even at 27, because a lot of times people feel like you're not going to get a day one starter at 27. Even at 27, if you hit right, you possibly find a diamond in the rough or a gem there that I
Wasn't
shouldn't say
Trey
diamond in the
wasn't
rough, but
wasn't Trey 27 or he was like 27 or 24? I think it was 27.
who?
Trey White. So you
Yeah,
could definitely find
right. You
somebody.
find somebody there, but you know how it is. They don't ever really consider that late enough. That's why so many people trade out. So if we find somebody that can be productive, who can start, it'll be great. But it'll be interesting because there's a lot of different opinions of which way they should go.
Yeah. So topic of conversation in the chat right now is if we don't I don't want to say if we don't win it all, but I'm not sure if that's where it started. But
Right.
if, whether or not McDermott is on the hot seat.
I we've talked about this before, and you know the answer that I gave. I think he is.
Yeah,
And
we
I think a
disagreed last
big
time
part
though.
of it is, but see, I see the signs. I see the signs. Um, the fact that Leslie Frazier is gone, and he did not go out and hire a defense coordinator. I kind of see the signs. He sees that things are getting maybe a little bit thin, as far as people's patience are getting a little bit thin. It's time to produce. We only have high level Josh Allen for so long. Although you know you've got other guys as well that maybe are we wasting their best years or not? I just I don't think, and I know a big part of it is Sarah, and I get it. I think because we had that 17-year drought, we had such uh, a carousel at quarterback. We were, one after another trying to find our franchise guy. And then we finally find the franchise guy. We find a coach that brings stability. Why are we going to get rid of him after we had such disarray for so long? It still comes down to winning. And when you're building a multi-million dollar, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, a brand new stadium across the street with a franchise quarterback that only has so many years, something something's got to give, and I
Yeah.
really do.
I mean,
I think that he's on the hot seat. I really do.
it kills me that people are saying it though, just because, 5 out of 6 years we've been to the playoffs. He's now the most winningest coach in Bill's history. Like, you can't keep on going 13-3 and 14-2 and
Right,
even a bad year 2 years ago 12-5. Like, it's still really what most teams are like trying to get.
right.
You can't go that many years doing that well. I just don't think it's right to assume that some guy could be on the chopping block when he's doing that well in the
Bills
in
fan
coaching.
needs to. You got Bills fan, and I say you guys, me as well. But Bills fan needs to choose what they want. And Papa Ron makes a good comment, and I agree with what he has to say. He says, I remember the Reds fired Dusty Baker after multiple playoffs because he couldn't get them to the World Series. They haven't been back to the playoffs since. I understand that and I get that. But the Bills now, I don't think these other coaching situations, the head coach had the talent or it's kind of a pyramid, right? The ownership's the head of the pyramid. You got the general manager and you got the head coach. Okay, it's kind of a pyramid. When Ralph owned the team and as he started moving on in his years, that whole dynamic was broken. It was blown up. Okay, talent wasn't correct. There was no communication. There was a coaching carousel, and it led to no continuity and no structure. McDermott comes in, you have Bean coming in, and then you have the Pagulas, and you have that perfect pyramid again, right? Bean's drafting good players. They hit on Josh Allen. McDermott's a hell of a head coach. He's definitely a guy that will win more than he loses because of the way he plays football, coaches football, and the percentages. And now all of a sudden we go from 17 years of a drought to a team that many felt last year should have contended for and won the Super Bowl, right? Well, over time, it's like this has been how many years now? We've kind of went to the same level, right? The same spot, like you just talked about, and we lose. At some point in time, somebody's got to answer for that. So you have to choose, and that's what I say to Papa Ron. You have to choose what you want. Do you want to be a team that makes the playoffs and is just good enough and is going to waste your franchise or your Hall of Fame type quarterback's career, or are you going to try to win it? What do you want to do? I mean, seriously. I mean, I
Okay,
could keep McDermott and
right.
continually go to the playoffs. That's
But
fine.
I'm
But
I'm gonna counter that with saying that's in essence saying that keeping McDermott is not trying to win it when he's put us in position to win it
no,
every
no,
year
no, no. Let
to
me
a certain
rephrase that.
extent.
No, I didn't actually say that. What I said was if he continues to have the same results. Okay, if we continue to have the same results to where you continually go, because there's people right now they want to fire who I believe is the best coach in the NFL in Mike Tomlin at Pittsburgh. They won one Super Bowl. Some will say that he won it with other players, with other coaches' players. And while they've never had a losing record since he's been there, that's what they're known for, right? They're known for not having a losing record, and they've missed the playoffs. But there is structure, there is, continuity, there is, things like that. So I'm not saying that McDermott can't win it all. I think he can.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is with a new stadium going in and the quarterback situation the way it is, and you continually are knocking on the door, but you never get there, is that good enough? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Conversely, I'm just saying that there is one team that wins every year. So, in the end, you got two teams that go and one team that wins. So you have 30 other disappointed teams and coaching staffs. I feel like at this point in time, yes, there gets a point where you get kind of like that monotony, I guess, where it's just everyone, we're winning, we're doing the 14-2, sorry, 14-3 now. It would be 17 games, 15-2, however you want to look at it.
I
And
don't want to get rid. By the way, I don't want to get rid of him. I like McDermott. I think McDermott is a absolute stud. I'm just telling you the sentiment. It's got to come
yeah,
since nobody will criticize the quarterback. Somebody's got to criticize somebody. So it's either going to be Bean or it's going to be the head coach.
well, I
So
think
who's
they're a
it going to be?
package deal. I really do think they're a package deal at this point in time. But a lot of people are saying what I was going to say, which is I think that until the team hits that wall and like regresses, does
Right,
worse,
right,
and I'm saying like worse than a 12-5, if we're 11 and
right.
6, 10 and 7, if we miss the playoffs, if we go to the playoffs and we're out in the wild card round, then yes, I think McDermott would be more on the hot seat. If we
But
are still winning, 13, 14 games, 15 games, whatever, we're still going to the playoffs, we're making, it deeper into the playoffs. You know, I don't think he would necessarily be on the hot seat. I think that it would be whether or not we need new defensive coordinator, if we need a new OC. I think those are the people that would get changed out
right,
before he would.
right. And I'm a huge fan of McDermott's. I don't want to see McDermott go, and I think he's a quality coach. I put him in the same light as like a Ron Rivera. I think they're very similar. I think he's a stand up guy. And the other thing with if you do move him, and we only got a few minutes to go before we get out of here until next week, but think about this, and I think you might have talked about it a little bit, touched on it. If you were to move McDermott, this football team is all in with him. You're probably going to lose a lot of players. You're going to
Yeah.
have to move players, and it's basically a brand new rebuild. You might even have to move your quarterback because I think they are all in with McDermott. I think that they like playing for him. It's obvious they enjoy playing for him, and hopefully this draft and hopefully these free agents and everything hit, and we're talking about another great season because they've put some good ones together for sure.
Yeah. I just want one. I really do just want
But
I
see,
know
then we go to that. But see, then we go to
I'm
that.
I'm gonna be greedy and say I just want one, but I also know that once you get one, you want more. So I get it. I'm just saying I've been waiting, you know, 35 years, no, 36 years for one. I want one. So
One of
all
us,
right.
yeah, I agree.
All right, you want to
One
take
of
us
us,
out?
one of us, one of. And by the way, why did the Super Bowl that I went to have to be the one that Travis Tritt and Tanya Tucker played at? I want like Foo Fighters or Rihanna or something, man. But
Yeah.
no.
I love,
Anyway, no, I think it'll be a great. I think we're digressing now, but no, I think it's going to be a great season. I'm really looking forward to the draft. I really appreciate everybody that comes on and types in the comments. Continually hit up Sarah on her Facebook page. Also hit me up on Twitter, Sarah on Twitter. I'm at Ostrowski Big L. Ostrowski underscore Big O. Sarah, you're at
Sarah_Larson. Or
underscore
you can do on
Larson.
the or you can do the
Or
line
hit
to
the
gain.
yep. Or hit the line to gain at line. What is it? Line underscore two
Yeah,
underscore
I'll
gain.
put it on the screen right now. Yeah.
Yeah, hit us up on line to gain. We'll answer your questions every week. It's a segment we kind of fallen into that we really like. Um, maybe you guys can convince her to quit being so mean to me. She's always mean to me and yelling at me and picking at me. Um, isn't that how it works nowadays?
Yeah. I
But no,
mean,
seriously, it's been a great show. We appreciate you coming on and getting with us. Sarah, what do you got to say before we get us out of here?
nothing much. I'm looking forward. We might be interviewing a NFL insider, either next week or the Wednesday before the draft. Just nailing down a date and time. Kind of get his viewpoint, so we have another person to argue with. So once all that is figured out, I will announce that, and that'll be fun.
She's Sarah Larson. I'm the Big O Jerry Ostrowski. This is Line the Game. We'll be back next week on Thursday, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. As always, one love and go Bills.
Go Bills.